guys, welcome to my channel. My name is ReadingBear and I hope you are ready for some more stories. And today, we will take a look at some new revenge content. If you enjoyed my content, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and post some bear emojis in the comment. And now, let's dive right into the stories.
First one is titled, Dad wouldn't let me go on holiday, so I quit and got a job with the competition. I, 30 female, worked for my dad when I was 16 as a sales rep. At 17, my 18-year-old friends were booking a holiday to Magaluf. My dad would not let me go as I was underage. Being 17 and disgruntled, I handed in my notice and applied to one of Dad's competitors. I got the job based on my experience and the previous accounts I had at Dad's company. It was a bold move and a big duck you to my dad. For 3 weeks, when I worked my notice, my dad was really upset, but later found the funny side. The whole family would make jokes about it, they still do. It did cause some tension sometimes, as we would try and steal each other's customers' lol. We always made up though, we were very close. Over the years I've been promoted a bunch of times, I now run the biggest branch in the country. I got a call this morning that the regional manager is retiring next year, and I'm up for promotion, so it's mine if I want it. This is when the money gets a bit insane. I'll also be the first female and youngest ever RM this company has had. I'm proud of myself, I have 3 kids. I had my first child at 19 and have worked my butt off. My dad was really proud of me in the end. He passed a few years ago, but always joked that he was right to make me miss that holiday, as I would not have left his company and worked as hard as I did. He was 100% correct. Next one is titled, Always Keep the Keys. A certain advice animals meme brought this memory to mind. This happened a good 10 years ago or so. My dad has a group of friends from high school who all own Jeeps and go jeeping together several times a year. They are all old high school friends from a suburban type town, plus a couple of family members who've since joined the bandwagon. One of those guys, let's call him Randy, got some awesome revenge. Now Randy is a nice guy, through and through. He's the kind of guy you feel you could trust with just about everything, and sometimes he gets stepped on because of this, but he keeps on going because he's far above bitter resentment. Randy also has a nice red Jeep he takes on the trails with my dad and the rest of his friends. It looks like your standard Jeep, but he's put a lot of money into it, fixing it up and modifying it to run the trails they'd like to go on. Turns out someone else decided he had a nice Jeep too. Randy wakes up one morning to find his Jeep gone. It doesn't take long to realize it's been stolen. They rally a search, call the police. Nothing for about a week, until they finally find his Jeep flipped over and stripped bare in the middle of an orchard. Several thousands of dollars and days worth of time, poof, gone to one jerk. But whatever, Randy shrugs, hauls it back, and takes his sweet time trying to restore his toy. Several months go by. The police have no luck, and we're all convinced the guy got away scot-free. I mean, most of the parts were standard stuff. They probably got separated and sold off on eBay. Heck, he could be selling them an ex-swap meet, and there'd be nothing we could do about it, because how could we prove those parts were Randy's? It's a done deal, we realize, nothing to do. We kind of even forget about it all for the most part. Then, one day, my cousin in the next town over gets a knock on his door. Now, my cousin is basically mid-age between me and my dad. He has his own Jeep, goes on trips with everyone else, and so he thought nothing of it when some random guy knocks on his door telling him, "Hey, I saw you had a Jeep. I happen to have some Jeep parts for sale. Are you interested?" Of course. My cousin says without thinking, "What do you have?" "A whole lot. Come on over." So my cousin goes to this guy's house and sees an array of Jeep parts, including a hardtop shell. He thinks to himself and says, "You know, I have all of this, but I have a buddy who's looking for a lot of this stuff. Here's his number." The guy, also not thinking, says, "Yeah, let me do that." So Randy gets a call from a guy trying to sell Jeep parts in the next town over. Why not take a look? He thinks. He calls my dad and they head over in my dad's truck prepared to buy some parts. They start talking with Guy, looking at the stuff, realizing he has a lot of the same things Randy is looking for. Everyone gets happy, seeing that a transaction is about to occur. Then Randy and my dad start noticing things. That part there. Look at that weld. That's not standard. That looks an awful lot like the weld you and I did. Oh, look at that. Didn't we repair that part just like that too? Wait a second. It dawns on Randy that he is looking at his own crap, and the guy trying to sell him this stuff is the thief. His mind flashes red, his eyes go wide, but he's not prone to violence and thinks ahead. He wants revenge. He realizes instantly he can't prove any of this stuff is his. How could he prove that weld was done by him? You can't. He's only got one saving grace. The hardtop shell still has the original lock, and back home, Randy has the original key hanging up in his garage. You know, I'd really like to buy this stuff, he says to the thief. Let me go get my trailer cause the truck we brought isn't big enough. Absolutely, says thief. Today's his lucky day, he's sure of it. So Randy goes home, calls the cops, grabs his old key, and heads back to thief's house. With cops standing by as witnesses, he walks up to the hardshell top and opens it. Randy gets every single part he lost back and thief goes to jail. Always keep the keys. Next one is titled, Exploit My Generosity. Hopefully, you don't like driving. One night, I was on my way home from work and needed to stop at a gas station. This gas station was right off a very busy, toll interstate highway and had an attached convenience store, as most do. It was dark out when I pulled up. I started pumping my gas and was headed to the store when another customer stopped me. His truck was at the pump across from me. He went on a sob story about how he just got a ticket for not having money to pay the tolls, being completely out of gas and needing to get home since he accidentally took all of his infant son's formula with him when he left. There was a woman with him, looking through a diaper bag while he related his tale of woe, and right when he mentions the formula, she yells, "Yeah, all the formula is in here." What were we thinking? We really need to get back. She said her wallet should be in the bag somewhere, but after dumping the contents inside the truck cabin, she lamented that it wasn't there. So yeah, obviously, they were looking for me to give them money. For some stupid reason, I decide to give them the benefit of the doubt. I go into the store, take out $20 from the ATM, and give it to them. In retrospect, this was such a textbook example of the stranded driver scam, but I guess I was really naive. But then instead of just thanking me for the money, this brazen son of a witch responds, "Thanks, but we really need another $20 to make it home. Any way you could get more." He also promised he'd mail the money back to me if I gave him my name, address, and phone number. At that point, I begin to regret giving him anything as all the red flags are registering in my mind at once. Both of these people were very unhygienic, greasy hair, very poor teeth, consistent with meth use, dirty clothes. The man's pupils were dilated a lot more than would be expected under the bright lights of the gas station, and he was especially twitchy. Likewise, the woman was pacing around, muttering to herself in feigned concern. So yeah, they were both probably high. Also, looking at the contents of the diaper bag sprawled across their truck's interior, there was plenty of trash but no baby formula. I thought to myself, if I'm going to ruin these people's night, I needed to be sure, so I agreed to get more money but first ask him, "Can I see the citation you got? My cousin is a state trooper and could probably take care of it for you. I just need some of the information on it." As I jot down his license plate number on my phone, he checks his pockets before saying, "Oh I have no idea what I did with it. It's okay, I'll just pay it. No big deal." So, you don't have money for gas, but paying more than $100 on a traffic ticket is no big deal. Bullcrap. I now also notice the state of his license plate didn't match up with his story. Upset at myself, I'm making my way back into the store, and the wheels in my head are spinning. How can I get back at this a-hole? Have them kicked out? No, then they'll just go to another gas station and victimize someone else. Call the police. They might not get here in time. I'm a few feet from the door when genius strikes. I turn and call over to him. "If you want, you can take my easy pass for the tolls. I don't really need it anymore. It's right on the dashboard, the door should be unlocked." "Oh, that'd be great, thanks." I go into the store and pretend to use the ATM while I'm actually using an app on my phone to cancel my easy pass. I report their fraudulent activity to the attendant and hurry back outside. I told the man I couldn't take any more money out of my account, sorry. He's disappointed, but didn't press me. I'm grinning like a smug idiot on the inside, get into my car, notice the transponder is gone, and drive off. I pull over a few minutes down the road and call the Easy Pass office. By some stroke of luck, they're open late that day and I'm able to speak with an actual person. I explained to her that when I got into my car just now, I noticed the transponder was gone. I already canceled it, but wanted to make sure it was all set. She confirms that it's deactivated and I can come pick up a replacement for a small fee. Not today. She asks and I tell her where and by whom I suspect the transponder was taken, giving her their license plate number and address of the gas station. She promises to pass the information along to the state police. Perfect. A day or so later, the state police call me to say they've recovered my transponder and needed me to come in to give a statement. Of course, I obliged. While there, I tried to pry more information on the fate of the con artists, but they weren't very forthcoming at all. Luckily, I told my cousin the story and she said she'd look into the case for me. According to the report, they got CCTV footage from the gas station showing me giving the man money and then him taking my transponder when I went back into the store. Afterwards, the meth heads got back onto the interstate and stopped at the nearest rest stop, where they presumably tried their scheme again before moving on to the next one to repeat the process. Eventually, they got off the toll road and onto a different highway. When they drove through the Easy Pass toll lane, they got flagged for not paying and were pulled over a few miles away. At this point, I was satisfied having caused them to get a $100 citation, but that wasn't the end of it. The cop notices something's up with the driver and calls for backup. When they arrived, the police officer gave the guy a field sobriety test, which he failed and was arrested. While this is going on, the woman flipped out and started running. She doesn't make it far before they catch up to her, whereupon she resists arrest. All in all, the guy was charged with DUI. Not his first time, either. Possession. They had some meth in the truck. Theft by deception, for the $1.20 I gave them, and theft for the transponder. The truck was impounded and the guy got a large fine for operating without insurance, along with the $100 fine for not paying the toll. The woman was charged with possession and resisting arrest. She also had a record. All in all, pretty sweet revenge. They ended up only being tried for the drug-related charges, but I'm still very satisfied with that along with the fines. It gave my cousin, the cop, a good laugh too. Last one is titled, Supervisor Dug His Own Grave. This happened about 10 years ago. It's very, very long, so I apologize for that. The supervisor position for my department was known to have a lot of turnover, so I had a lot of bosses. But the one I'm going to tell you about takes the prize as the biggest but that, and I'll tell you how I got revenge. So, new boss starts working at my agency. We're created by the state legislature, but funded by the users we regulate. As a governmental agency, it's extremely difficult to fire someone. It has to be a blatant act, easily verifiable, and in violation of published policies. You get the idea? Here's my story. I've been employed with the agency for 13 years, had a solid work ethic and provable productivity. My position is a professional one and I have 2 degrees in the field. I love my job. About 8 months before bad boss, Terry, his real name, was hired. A tech worker. Emily, also real name, had been promoted. Emily was known to spend her workday texting her SO or BFF, or on the phone making appointments or scheduling vacations, and Brown, nosing whomever was her direct report, speaks to how she got the promotion. I tried to train her up, but she was always too busy or out sick. Enter newly hired Terry. He was cognizant of my skills and work, and was generally genial for the first couple of months. Suddenly, Emily was getting the choice assignments. When I asked Terry about it, he responded that she had experience. I countered that no, she didn't, because she didn't have time to be trained in that area. I warned him that her lack of experience was going to cause him heartburn. Within a month it did. He had to fix her work and would spend hours in his office trying to train her up in the area. Now let me say that Emily was attractive. Tall, blonde, curves in the right proportions and in the right places. I'm short, redhead, tomboy with the curves corresponding with that description. But I'd been the sole employee in the department for 11 years and had built a solid reputation in the field. Terry begins to walk into my shared office when Emily was out to tell me the agency no longer needs my expertise and I should go find another job. He tells me this daily for weeks. I finally go to his boss, who had been my boss prior to Terry, and ask if the agency would like me to leave. He vehemently tells me the agency needs my expertise and asks why I've asked that. I tell him what Terry has been telling me. A discussion happens between the two and I'm told that Terry denies telling me that. Now, I see how it is. Terry nearly gets me written up twice, both times lying to HR. Emily gets a promotion to supervisor, for which she was wildly unqualified, and she crashed and burned within 9 months, another story, and I get the crappiest review I'd ever had. I knew I had to bide my time, keep the cleanest nose ever, but I knew how to take him down. March comes around, and I'd put in for vacation for a week that month. I'd put in for the time off 2 months earlier. The Friday before my vacation begins, I'm called into Terry's office. You need to reachable on your cell phone the entire week, he says. Well, that's going to be difficult. My parents live in another state in a rural area, and the cell service tower is for another provider. I only get service when I go into town, I informed him. I want the phone number to your parents' house. Give it to me. No, that's an intrusion to their privacy. There's nothing I'm responsible for that can't wait a week, I told him. Give it to me or I'll have you written up. Okay, I'll give you the number. In the back of my mind, I'm thinking he's written his own death warrant. You see, at our agency, whenever you make a long-distance call, you have to enter a code that is unique to you for the call to go through. On Wednesday of my vacation, my mom answers the phone and tells me it's for me. Terry's on the phone demanding the password for my computer. I decline to give it to him. He insists I give it to him. While he's in the line yelling at me, I log into my personal email and start composing an email to the head of admin and HR director detailing this phone call. I eventually hang up on Terry and send my email. Monday morning at 9 a.m., I'm called into the HR office. What is this email you sent? What happened? I detail the call and what Terry wanted, which is against agency policy, and how I handle it. Can you prove it? Well, he had the call on speaker and Emily was in his office to witness it. Oh, BTW, here's my mom's phone number. I'm sure you can figure out if it's been called, when and by whom. Terry is an absolute crap to me all day. Whenever Emily left the office, so did I. I was done with the but that. Done. The next day, Emily is called into HR. An hour later, Terry is called. Emily hadn't returned. 2 hours later, they both return. Emily begins to ask me about certain areas she hasn't gotten into yet, and I kind of blow her off. She's an accessory in my mind. Terry refuses to speak to me at all. I found out later that he was told to stop harassing me, and the next time I complained, he'd be fired. 6 months later, Terry quits. 6 months after that, they demote Emily back to a position equal to mine, but out of my department. I retire in 8 months with a sweet pension and retirement benefits. Duck you both, Terry and Emily. No one screws with me and gets away with it. Thanks for listening.